Good evening, how are you? Well, I did get a chance to go swimming today, and it was raining, and I had the entire pool to myself, and the temperature in the water was a little warmer than the air around. But anybody who does lap swimming knows that's the normal way to act. So I don't have a problem so much with the rain or the lightning or the thunder today, but I'm taking a break after doing some business here, and so I thought I'd bring you up to speed on what I think is going on right now. Let's start with Bondi, the so-called Attorney General of the Department of Injustice. And she has been dancing around the production of information in the Epstein matter now for weeks. And today she got caught by a federal judge because the federal judge said, you guys are asking for the grand jury minutes. And the grand jury minutes only have to do with two people, Epstein and Maxwell, the woman who brings the children to him that he then acts as a predator over. That's it. That's the whole case. So you're not going to get all the Johns. There's only one John in the case that was before the grand jury, and that John was Epstein, who's now dead. And the person he conspired with was Maxwell, and she was convicted and got 20 years, even though the government thought she should get as much as 50 years. So there isn't any question that the old Justice Department, when there was a justice of some sorts, even though we had a sleepy Attorney General who was totally inert before the need to actually punish Trump for, on January the 6th, 2020, trying to take over the government in a coup. And so here we are now, and surprising as it is, we have the MAGA nuts who are as concerned as everyone else about the Epstein case. And one of the reasons, ironically, I think, is that Trump kept beating the drum about that it was only Democrats. But it appears that there are a lot of people above the law, and none of them have been prosecuted. And instead of the 6 or 7 witnesses that appeared at the Maxwell case, who were only talking about what happened with Epstein, we have many more, 1,000 or so, who were involved with other men, presumably men, who took advantage of their youth and committed the crimes that they did. And so we should keep that in mind. Well, the judge today put the point on Bondi and said, listen, you are trying to mislead the public by saying that there's a way to understand this case and get more information perhaps on Trump and other things by going to the grand jury. But the grand jury consisted of, I think, 45 minutes of testimony by an FBI agent who summarized the case, and that case had to do with Epstein and Maxwell. It didn't have anything to do with the other people who were taking advantage of children. And whoever they are, Democrat or Republican, they should pay the price for it. And we shouldn't be snookered into thinking that these guys are above reproach when they're nothing of the sort. Also, we can't take for granted the fact that the FBI has looked at the records. In fact, when 1,000 personnel claw their way through 100,000 documents, do you think some didn't get lost, some got altered, some got changed in this Justice Department? Because that is one of the things that tells us who they are. Keeping it in the same city, we have a new U.S. attorney in town, Pirro, who thinks in Washington, D.C., people shouldn't be discouraged from having guns and shotguns and so forth. Why? She is suggesting that it would be okay to be violent to the residents, the police, or whomever. That's not acceptable. That would be cause in a legitimate place that would be cause in a legitimate pace to fire her, perhaps to impeach her, perhaps to do any number of things. Now, while we're talking about the failings of our government, let's turn to Texas. Texas is celebrating the fact that in an undemocratic fashion, having nothing to do with compact districts representing a general kind of people, they're going to put Republicans in districts, make them competitive, and thereby they think hang on to the House. Is that what the Founding Fathers thought when they created a House of Representatives and a Senate? I don't think so. I think what they hoped to create was a representative government. That's what the vote is about. That's the definition of a republic. It is not having somebody who wants to be a dictator, an autocrat, who wants everything for himself, who trades on the office to his advantage. And what would a cross-section of today's errors and sins be without talking about Ukraine? that you and I are more likely to levitate than there's going to be an agreement with Putin to have a peace. He does not want a peace. He wants to take all of Ukraine. And if you look at the maps, you can see what he's doing. Crimea was years ago, and they took the territory they did in violations of assurances that were given to Ukraine that they could give up nuclear arms, but they would still be safe and secure. Well, that was so much poppycock, because that's not anything like that has happened. And so what we did do, and what the Europe did, who are smarter at politics and force than our worthless commander-in-chief, commander-in-thief, and it is that they pushed to the center a defense of Zelensky by their presence, and that peace is important. And what's happening to the children has to stop. And killing these people is wrong and is in fact a war crime. And this guy, Putin, can't even appear in certain places because of that war crime. So what are we to do? What we are to do is to understand the true facts and to push them in conversations, whether you pay $15 to ACLU or you call up the local representative and tell them that you better fight for our right to be a democracy, because what's happening now is not acceptable. You may not do this any longer. You have to stop. And if you don't stop, we're going to stop you. We're going to move you out of office. Democrat, Republican, Independent, whatever you are, your time is done. And so let me go back just one more time to the Epstein question. The Epstein question is important because what I found over the years in both politics and criminal law, as a prosecutor and as a defense counsel, is there are magic moments in everything that happens that sort of summarizes everything. And this is one of the things that I would summarize right now. I don't know what they thought they were doing, but they thought they could get through this saying that the Democrats are the only ones who are bad. I don't know if the Democrats are bad, but if they are bad, up to and including Clinton, they should pay the price, just as I think the Republicans should pay the price. No question in my mind. And so then they tried to figure out, how can we give the public something and not be responsible for it? We'll ask a court to open the grand jury and give all the stuff that appeared before the grand jury. But the grand jury case only involved Maxwell and Epstein. Nothing else. None of the other Johns, none of the larger conspiracy in which she and he helped to bring it together. So if you will, by focusing on Epstein as John, that is a person who is having women brought to him who are underage and then taking advantage of them, as compared to being a pimp and taking care of many more people, not just himself as the John, then you see the difference. The latter case is not before a grand jury. So when they sat at the president's residence, the vice president's residence, Hillbilly Vance, they knew that it didn't matter what a judge did. If a judge approved the release or disapproved the release. In fact, denying the release allowed them to argue, wow, you know, all the really good stuff is in there, when that's an absolute and total lie. And the judge said that today. The judge pointed the finger and said, this is wrong. You are wrong. You are misleading the public. And that is true. And the judge said that the government has all this information on Epstein and implicitly on Trump, and you just get that stuff. But my answer to that is twofold. One is, we can't trust this Justice Department to give us anything honestly. So that's worthless. But instead of having a former Attorney General, Barr, who himself was part of this grand conspiracy to fool America and didn't have the balls to be involved in the January 6th thing, he pulls out just before that because he was afraid they were all going to get dragged down. But never underestimate the fact that some people are so far above the law, no one can breathe in that atmosphere where they exist. And no one apparently can be prosecuted and brought to arms and put in jail and censured and all the other things that should happen to you or me if we even came close to doing anything like what these guys are doing. So what's to do? Talk about it. Be honest about it. Don't let these guys get away with it. And we're in a position now where this is the magic moment, because nobody's satisfied. They can see that this story is as bad as the story that they're telling about Ukraine is the story they're telling about Washington, D.C. being a danger when they're trying to allow guns in the area to provoke something so he can just not even pretend that it's martial law, just come out and say it's martial law. And D.C. is the first place. They'll go to all the cities because they're Democratic. They'll do what they can to strangle business in those places by making terrified to go into those places. And so they'll make it a self-fulfilling forecast of a dark future because of how Trump is the enemy of the people. I mean the people, all the people, but especially if you're a Democrat. And when he says we don't want any woke people, he's saying he wants people asleep to discrimination. He wants people asleep to judicial equality. He wants people asleep to a nation that cares about education and progress, that cares about health, that cares about people, no matter what their color is, no matter what their religion is, no matter where they are. And this guy has no business being in America. If anything, he should be a man without a nation. They should banish him and let him ride the seas of the whole world for the rest of his life and not be remembered for an instant when he finally dies and leaves the planet. So, those are a couple of my thoughts this evening. And I also want to thank a fellow, Sean Campbell, who was very nice to find some space for me to talk to you. And he's a new subscriber, and go out and get some more new subscribers so that we become a force. We have quite a number now. We can use more. So all the best. I'll talk to you tomorrow. I don't know if I'll be here or someplace else, but I will talk. All the best. Bye-bye.